What's up, Fairmers? Welcome to the Ferrum Athletic Company podcast. I am your host, Andrea Warner. I am also the co-owner and co-founder of Ferrum Athletic Company. If you would like more information on us, please visit our website at www.ferrumathleticco.com. And now, on to today's show. What's up, Fairmers? Happy New Year. It is officially January 1st of 2024, and I'd figured that I would start off Season 2, Episode 1 on exactly New Year's Day and talk about things like resolutions, perspective, the usual longevity, things that people don't really think about deeply. They think about them, but then it's like it's a fleeting moment in their life. And I want to start out with January 1st talking about resolutions, partially because resolutions are short-term motivation. January 1st rolls around and we all have this perspective that everything changes, which it can, if you put in the effort and the work to make it change. There's this mental shift from December 31st to January 1st. It's like the slate's wiped clean. Everything starts over, which is a fantastic perspective if that's what you need. And for us personally, at this time last year, it was, we'll just say it was a bit of a debacle, because we had just packed up and moved out of our old location on December 31st. Moved all of our stuff into our new location where it didn't have a home. It all just sat in the middle of the floor, basically, or in our storage unit. The walls weren't done. The painting wasn't done. The parking lot wasn't done. Nothing was done. We were working on gluing down flooring because we had to do all of that before we could do anything with the equipment. So we moved basically all of the equipment that was in our old gym, sat it in the middle of the floor, then moved everything from there over onto the rubber flooring to be able to glue down the other side of the floor. The entire month of January was kind of a blur because there was just so much happening for us last year. So I very much feel that December 31st to January 1st, that mental shift of this is new. This is a new year. I definitely feel that this year because last year we didn't really get that new mindset kind of feeling because we were so busy with things that had to be done in the new space. And in a sense, it felt very chaotic. And that translated into how we felt throughout the entire year. We never really felt ready. We felt like we were constantly catching up. We felt like things were constantly being thrown at us. We felt a little bit unorganized. But we also had so many new things coming up that was a little bit to be expected. But partially it was because we didn't have any planning. We didn't have time to have any planning in January. Whereas this year we do. And part of the reason why I like for our business to be closed on January 1st, which everybody is probably confused by that, especially since January 1st this year is on a Monday. Like, what the heck? Why are we closed? Why didn't we have just one class? Well, I'll tell you why. The holidays they start on Halloween. We have 3 holidays. If you want to count New Year's as a holiday, that's 4. We have 4 consecutive holidays in a row in less than 2 months. Halloween starts a sugar and alcohol shit show for a lot of people that lasts for about 60 days. Now, if you have Halloween and you have the candy and then you go back to doing your regular working out, nutrition, whatever, then you have Thanksgiving and you have your meal, your family time, maybe some drinks. Then you go back to doing your regular routine and then you have Christmas. You can get away with the little bit of overindulgence on each of those days. And some of you probably saw me make social media posts that were like, have the cake, enjoy the drink. That's if you're just doing it on the day. If you took Halloween and started it at Halloween and then continued it for the next 60 straight days, by the time January 1st rolls around, number one, you probably feel like crap. You probably really don't feel good at all because you have had a sugar alcohol intake in the past 60 days that has outnumbered your sugar alcohol intake for the prior 10 months out of the year. So by the time January 1st rolls around, you are ready to be like, all right, I've had enough of this. So I could see where everybody's like, yep, let's go work out. However, if you think about this from a lifestyle perspective, sugar and alcohol started October 31st. Most people spent Thanksgiving either traveling or with your family and spent 4 or 5 days family time. Then you went to Christmas where you probably traveled, had family time, prepared meals, went to brother's house, went to sister's house, went to cousin's house, went to grandma's house, went to everybody's house. You potentially slept in different beds. Your nutrition has been off. Your hydration has been off. On top of that, the weather has changed. It is now cooler outside. Most people aren't drinking the water and the electrolytes that we used to drink. But then everybody's like, well, none of that matters. On January 1st, I just want to hit the ground running. Fine. However, if you want this to be a long, sustainable thing, here's what I would recommend. On January 1st, maybe even December 31st, this is what I did. You take December 31st and January 1st to reorganize your life just a little bit and calm down for a second and slow your roll. Like, enjoy the sunset and breathe it all in, because the next 364 days are going to be chaotic. So if you have a moment to just sit down and pause and have some reflection, reorganize your kitchen, get the junk out of the house, reorganize things for work, set yourself up for the best possible success for the entire year. As opposed to thinking, I'll catch up on that later, I really have to work out because I've trashed myself for the past 60 days. Today should be a day where you get to sit down for a second. You don't have to worry about going to 6 people's houses. You don't have to worry about preparing the huge meal, entertaining 50 people, going to somewhere out of town. And a lot of people just got back in town from traveling. Enjoy sleeping in your own bed for a night. A lot of injuries occur when we neglect and ignore the things that we've done to our body recently, and then we just try to jump in to healthy. Jumping in head first usually leads to quitting because everybody wants results like yesterday. Well, I started working out on January 1st. It's now January 7th, and I've gained weight and I don't feel any better. It's because you've spent the past 60 days or more trashing everything. It's not going to be fixed in 7 days. You need to look at this year, at 2024, as 365 days. It is a full year. If you improve your nutrition, your sleep, your stress, your movement by 1% every day, by the time I'm standing here talking to you next year, you're 365% better. But everybody tries to cram all of that into the first 2 weeks of the year. Enter New Year's resolutions. This year, my resolution is to fill in the blank. And the reason why people fail at New Year's resolutions is because it's an all or nothing situation. They stop eating, usually. They try to cut out 2,500 calories in one day. They try to go to the gym for 2 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's not sustainable. It's not consistent. You cannot do that for an entire year. Think of something that you can do reasonably for an entire year that would make you healthy. If you were to sit down and look at your schedule, look at your spouse's schedule, look at your kid's schedule, and you were like, you know what? I can do anywhere from 3 to 5 days, potentially at the gym. On the days that I don't go to the gym, I can walk. Awesome. I need to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I need to focus on real food. This year will be a great year to start investing in your health. I recommend that you spend lavishly on your health and cut corners somewhere else. Buy the cheaper alcohol. Buy the cheaper clothes. Save money elsewhere. If there's one thing that I have learned from this past year, and I don't know that I've done a podcast, just me, since my mom was diagnosed with cancer last year, but if there's one thing that I've learned from watching what my mom went through, it's that in the blink of an eye, your entire life can change. So if you're walking around with this ego that because you do whatever, it makes you so incredibly badass that nothing will ever happen to you, you better tone it down. Because there is not a single person on this planet that is not unbreakable. And that is the hardest thing for us to come to grips with is our humanity. The fact that it is possible for us to get sick. It is possible for us to get injured. And it can happen so fast. Suddenly you're like, holy shit, what the hell just happened to me? How did I go from doing this to now being where I currently am? It happens so fast. A personal example for me is I'm washing my car one day and I accidentally stepped on the concrete culvert in the ditch in my front yard. And I had a small step stool ladder in my hand. And I slid down the culvert into the ditch and landed sideways on the side of the ladder. My ribs landed on the ladder. First of all, I've fallen quite a bit in my life playing sports, hit the ground. Never have I slid and fell on an object like that. I laid in the ditch, said some cuss words, and I had to check myself, crap, and are my ribs broken? Can I breathe? Talk about painful, but in the blink of an eye, it didn't matter what I did, working out or otherwise. It didn't matter. Because once it started, I couldn't catch myself. It was just, I'm going down and good luck. Whatever happens, happens. But thank God that I do work out because it did help protect my rib cage. However, it didn't make me invincible to the pain because I bruised a rib, couldn't breathe for, I don't even know, over a month without some severe pain. Wearing clothes hurt, and I still have a scar on my ribs from the edge of the ladder. My mom is a healthy individual. She is my size to a T. We are the same height. We are the same weight. My mom walks 4 miles in a cemetery in Indiana that is super hilly. And when I go for a walk with her, we're breathing hard. It's harder than the walks I do here that are totally flat. She eats well. Nobody eats perfect that's in their 60s. Could my mother do better? Yeah, sure. She has some IBS issues, so there's certain things, lettuce, vegetable-wise, that she has to watch out for. Do they eat pizza? Yeah. But it's not like she's sitting around eating Fruit Loops and fried chicken all the time. She eats healthy breakfast. She eats lunch. She eats dinner. She eats good snacks. She gets her blood work done every year. She's on it. And out of nowhere, her appendix ruptures. Unbelievable pain. Has surgery. Goes back for her follow-up appointment 6 weeks later. And nobody called to tell her to bring someone with her. She thought she was going through a routine surgery follow-up to hear that everything was okay because she felt great. And at that time, they're like, oh, bad news. We found cancer. You had a tumor in your appendix. And you want to talk about floored? She just sat there and like looked around the room and was like, who are you talking to? What are you talking about? And that led us down a road of something that I hope nobody ever has to experience. Doctors, surgeries, multiple doctors. Because the first guy was like, oh yeah, we're just going to cut out part of your intestine and remove some lymph nodes and then we'll see where you're at. Like she was getting her tonsils taken out. So the rest of my family is in the medical field. And they spoke with professionals that they work with and recommended that she go to IU Med Center in Indianapolis. So we end up there with a specialist, an appendix cancer specialist who was unbelievable. This woman was an engineer. She graduated from school as an engineer, was working as an engineer, and was volunteering at the hospital in the cancer unit, and found her work in oncology far more rewarding than anything that she was doing as an engineer. So she went back to school to become a surgical oncologist. You want to talk about a brilliant woman. And she was thorough. She was polite. She spoke to my mom like my mom was actually a human being and not a lab rat. She looked at her and said, Mrs. Warner, here's what we're going to do. We are going to remove a quarter or a third of the right side of your intestines. We are going to remove 36 lymph nodes. We are going to make sure that all margins are clear. We are going to look around. At this time, I don't believe that you are a candidate for the HIVAC procedure. The HIVAC procedure is a procedure where if they believe cancer cells have spread, because my mom's appendix ruptured, if they believe that cancer cells have spread into your abdomen, they basically open you up and wash your insides in chemo. You get a chemo bath. That is the HIVAC procedure. Based off of my mom's CT scan, they didn't think that she was eligible for that because they didn't think that the cancer had gone anywhere when the appendix ruptured. Enter August, beginning of August. We are in Indianapolis for mom's surgery. We meet with Dr. Nguyen, who was her surgeon. Once again, very thorough. The way she spoke with us, she met with us privately. She told us about the surgery and how it went. That they looked around while they were in there and they didn't see anything alarming cancer-wise. However, Mom also had an oncologist, Dr. Turk, who recommended 4 rounds of chemotherapy and basically said, we know that we removed all the margins. We know that your colon, the bottom inch of your colon, had cancer in it. The cancer was starting to spread. We also know that the type of cancer cells that were in your appendix, there were 2 different kinds. And the alarming one is the one that had learned how to mutate to travel along your nerves. So, in order for us to be preventative, we recommend these 4 rounds of chemo because of the cancer cells that have learned how to mutate. That should take care of those. However, appendix cancer is unbelievably rare. Only 1 or 2 people out of every 1 million will ever have it. So therefore, we have no studies on how to treat this. So we're going to treat it like colon cancer. These are the drugs that we're going to give you. This is the amount of time it's going to take. Let's do this thing. So in the blink of an eye, my mom went from walking 4 miles a day, having a normal routine, being fit, lifting weights on occasion, doing all of the yard work and housework that she wanted. My mom and dad wear me out. They are so active, which I'm happy that they are. At the ages of 64 now and 66, they still wear me out. Let's go here. Let's go there. We got to mow the grass. We got to move this. We have to lift that. We got to blah, 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 blah. Holy crap, they're active. But in the blink of an eye, she's not. Totally unpredicted. Nothing in her daily life says, hey, you are potentially going to get cancer. She's not sedentary. Even when she had a desk job, she set a timer and got up and walked out in the plant. They had a plant that manufactured signs. She is not a typical, if we're looking at cancer as a metabolic disease, which they have been researching, does cancer come from our crappy food environment, which probably our food environment in the United States sucks. But for her, she doesn't have that typical diet. So in her mind, where the heck did this come from? Nobody knows. But she went from being super active to the first surgery, 6 weeks post-surgery, no strenuous activity. None. To the next surgery, so that was June 4th or 5th, that she had her first surgery because we had our grand opening on June 10th. Her next surgery was August 1st, where they went in again to the same area and removed her colon and 36 lymph nodes. There's another 6 weeks of no strenuous activity. She's walking around holding a pillow on her belly because it hurts so flippin' bad. Then from there, chemo has to start 8 weeks post-op. And let's talk about chemo. You want to talk about a kick in the face. Nothing can prepare you for what you're going to feel, what you're going to experience, what you're going to watch someone go through when they go through chemo. Nothing will prepare you for that. And those of you that have had to go through it, that are listening to this, I would just like to hug every single one of you because I'm sorry that anyone ever has to go through this. And so many people where my mom went, medical professionals looked at her and they were like, oh, you're only doing 4 rounds? This will be easy. You might not even feel a thing. Let's talk about round 1, right out of the gate. So here's what chemo looks like. Her chemo, anyway. There are different types, different forms. She had a port put in. She was on pills for 2 weeks. She had to take 2 pills, 2 500 milligram chemo pills in the morning, 2 500 milligram chemo pills at night. Her rounds started on a Tuesday. So that Tuesday morning, she had to take 2 pills. She had to go out to the oncology center for an infusion. Before the infusion, they give her a cocktail that includes Ativan, steroids, some other things to help with the chemo process. And then she sits for 2 hours while they pump chemo into her. She has to keep herself occupied, doing whatever. She was crocheting, reading, whatever. Another 2 chemo pills that night. The pills last for 14 days. She gets 1 week break of nothing, and then round 2 would start. Side effects that my mom experienced from day 1. Neuropathy in her throat, mouth, and hands from the onset. It felt like she was swallowing razor blades. She couldn't drink anything cold. She couldn't touch anything cold. In order to get anything out of the refrigerator or the freezer, she had to put gloves on. In order to drink anything, it had to be room temperature or warmer. Eventually, food, everything started to taste like metal. She had this nonstop metal taste in her mouth. The razor blade feeling in her throat went from razor blades to sandpaper. So it was hard for her to really eat or drink anything. Other side effects, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, all of that, all compounds as it goes. By the time she got to round 3, it was so bad. When I was there at Thanksgiving, the woman that I know that walks, never sits down, shopping, housework, playing with grandkids, she didn't get off the couch the entire week I was there, except to run to the bathroom. I couldn't get her to eat. I couldn't get her to drink. We were trying everything. She would take a sip of something and just immediately, if the gagging started, it was all coming up. It was so bad. At that point, we were down 25 pounds. Forget walking, forget working out, forget any of that. At this point, she's just trying to figure out how to make it to the next day because she feels so bad. Calls the doctor, says, there's no way I can do round 4. There's no way. I won't make it. And she was right. The doctor agreed. Her doctor in Indy said, you made it through 3. The 3 are the most important. We won't do round 4. She calls out to the oncology center and begs them for an IV. Begs them. Because every time she's asked for an IV, because she's having a hard time getting in any of the fluids that they want her to drink, they asked her questions like, well, do you have a headache? And she's like, well, no. Or are you lightheaded? No. Oh, well, you're not dehydrated. You're fine. Just keep doing what you're doing. I'm sorry, but anyone who has that much going out of their body with not a whole lot coming in is dehydrated. By the time she finally made it out there and they finally gave her an IV, they looked at her and they were like, holy crap. Yeah, we're going to hook you up to an IV. And tomorrow when you come in for your appointment for blood work, we're going to give you another bag. And then at tomorrow's appointment, we'll just go ahead and schedule you for an appointment on Friday for a 3rd bag of fluids. How dehydrated do you have to be to get 3 bags of fluid in a week? A lot. While she was there, one of the doctors came over to my dad and said, you know, we would have never guessed that this would have hit her this hard. Usually 4 rounds is nothing. But in her case, she wouldn't have made it through round 4. She would have been hospitalized, and it would have been really bad. So it's a good thing that she stopped. My mom doesn't take medication. My mom is sensitive to things, which is probably where I get it from. And it smashed her. And she's now in the process of rebuilding. But in the blink of an eye, her whole life changed. Our whole life changed. Everything for us changed. In the blink of an eye, I'm like, okay, you've been wanting me to come home for a week for the holidays. I'm there. I'll be there at Thanksgiving. I'll be there again at Christmas. A whole week, both times. And then, of course, I tell her the days that I'm going to be there. And she's like, you're going to leave on the 26th? Mothers. I was like, I was there for over a week. But my point is, if you look at this as a long-term journey, if you're listening to this right now and you're in your 30s, maybe even your 20s, if you're in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, you still have a long way to go. Even though you're middle-aged, that doesn't mean that you're at the end of the road. Just because you're 45 or 48 or 56 doesn't mean that you're quote-unquote too old to do things just because what you're doing right now looks like it's different than what you did in your 20s. What you're doing right now is what you need to be doing for you right now. Because your long-term health is the bigger picture. Now, the big question is what you're doing sustainable for your long-term health? For example, if you're going out and running 10 miles a day and you're 28 years old, Are you going to be able to run 10 miles a day every day for the rest of your life? Probably not. The body has a breaking point. If you're doing super high intensity CrossFit and giving it all you've got every single time you walk in that door because #mental toughness, is that sustainable for the next 30 years? Probably not. I'm speaking from experience on that one. Is it okay to run 10 miles on occasion? Yeah. Isn't it okay to do super high intensity on occasion? Yeah, sure. You want to think about what you can do starting today that is sustainable for 365 days, and then you build from there. We recently had a conversation with another business talking about fitness and goals for our business. And this guy kept bringing up that we needed to start talking about 4-week challenges and 6-week challenges and 30-day this and 60-day that. And Sherry and I both adamantly told him, that's not what we do. We don't believe in that. Yeah, we used to do 30-day nutrition challenges. But what happened on day 31? Everybody celebrated that it was over and all of it was done. All of the hard work that they just put in for the past 30 days was gone. Sadly enough. What that was supposed to be was a jump start for education to keep that sustainable for a longer term. There's a reason why our new nutrition program requires a 30-day minimum commitment. Or I'm sorry, a 90-day minimum commitment. You have to do our nutrition program for at least 3 months before you can go out and be on your own. And it's because it takes that long to create a new routine. It takes that long to create new habits. It takes that long for it to become part of your lifestyle. And that's the perspective, that is the conversation that we want to have with every person that walks in our door. What can I help you with today that will make you better 20 years from now? What keeps you out of a wheelchair? What keeps you out of a hospital? And is there a chance that a freak chance that that's going to happen? Yes. Because once again, we are human. And once again, that is the hardest thing for us to wrap our minds around, is that right now, you might be feeling really good. And there are people in this world that don't work out, that don't pay attention to what they eat, that don't do anything, that believe that they are healthy because they are absent of disease. Because technically that is the definition of health. Health is the absence of disease. Because a doctor hasn't looked at them and said, hey, you have blah, blah, blah syndrome. You should take care of that. They believe that they are healthy. Whereas, if people would understand that the true definition of health is taking care of your body to help prevent disease, doing the preventative on a daily basis, and keeping that in mind, that there is going to be a chance where someday there's going to be a disease, there's going to be an injury, there's going to be an illness, there's going to be something that we are going to have to address. And we need to be prepared for that. The best way to be prepared for that is to have as much lean muscle mass as possible. So if you're looking for a New Year's resolution, if you're looking for something to hype you up this year, if you want something to work towards, it needs to be muscle. And I'm not talking about becoming a bodybuilder and being as big as you can be. I'm talking about lean muscle mass that helps prevent illness. It helps you fight disease. It helps reverse things like type 2 diabetes. It helps high cholesterol. It helps high blood pressure. Name a disease. And lean muscle mass is your answer. The tempo work that we do at Ferrum, that controlled down, that eccentric, the tempo that you guys see written on our screen, that is what builds that lean muscle mass most effectively. If your goal is to get as strong as possible, you better be doing something like competing in something. If your goal is to have a 500-pound deadlift or heavier, you better be competing at CrossFit or powerlifting or Olympic lifting. There better be a reason. Because technically, you can still lift heavy and do it safely as long as you control the negative. Meaning, if you're going to do the deadlift, if you pick that sucker up, you better be able to sit it back down on the ground. Because I'm not impressed with what you can pick up. I'm more impressed with what you can put down. If you throw a barbell up over your head that you can't lower back down to your shoulders, it's too heavy. Unless you're going to compete at Olympic lifting. But if you are the average Joe, like myself, that is here to be healthier, that is here to feel good for the rest of their lives, that really doesn't want to have a shoulder injury or shoulder surgery, whatever I throw up over my head, I better be able to control it back down to my shoulders. I've dropped weight from overhead more times than I can count. And during that time, I ended up trashing my shoulders, trashing them, frozen shoulder being the worst. You want to talk about something that sucks? Not being able to hold anything over your head because your arm physically can't get in that position without being in excruciating pain. So I learned the hard way. Number one, I need to take care of my range of motion. Number two, I need to be stronger. I don't need to just throw it up overhead. I need to be able to bring that sucker back down. And I need to know which muscles help to bring it back down, as opposed to just firing up my traps all the time. Same thing with a deadlift, same thing with a squat. Control it down, and you're going to put on the lean muscle mass. Things like the high rep finishers that we have at the end, those are either muscular endurance or cardio endurance. Seeing people do 50 heavy power cleans. And by the way, Olympic lifting doesn't make you stronger, it makes you faster. People Olympic lift to improve their power output. You don't Olympic lift to get stronger. I'll just throw that one out there. And this is from years of education, years of personal experience, years of doing things wrong so that we can figure out how to do things right to help people better. And I stand before you at the age of 43 after doing all of this now for over 15 years, working out since I was 20, when my mom made us join a gym because her cholesterol was high when she was 20 or when she was 40. And that's where our health journey started, because she has genetically high cholesterol. But I've done a whole lot of the wrong things. And so is my business partner. You want to talk about someone who's done a whole lot of the wrong things? Talk to Sherry. She has had back surgery. She's had 2 C-sections. She's had 2 shoulder surgeries where they have reattached her rotator cuffs. She has torn her labrum in her right shoulder 360 degrees all the way around. She can tell you how much you don't want to have surgery. She can tell you how important it is, don't shoot me, Sherry, at the age of 52, to be able to control weight back down and set it back down on the floor. She can tell you how important muscle is to everything, to how she feels getting out of bed, to helping with hormone regulation, to helping with her blood panel. I mean, you name it, muscle is important. And if you haven't figured out who Dr. Gabrielle Lyon is, we highly recommend you listen to her. We also have her book available. All we do, myself, my business partner, our staff, is study and observe to be able to help people better. And that is our goal for 2024. For our business, for our clients, it is to continue to be the best that we can be, to provide the most education possible, to be able to help people on deeper levels. Because after watching someone go through chemo, and the only answer that anybody had to provide for my mom when she was not feeling well was more medication. Not at any time did anybody talk to her about food or vitamins or anything. It wasn't until I came home for Thanksgiving and talked to her about, her and my godmother, or me and my godmother talked to her about probiotics, that she actually started taking probiotics to help with the unbelievable amount of diarrhea in her gut. The gut bacteria was gone from the chemo, but nobody talked to her about how to rebuild it. Taking care of yourself, having the education to know what is best for you, being able to advocate for yourself is your biggest power. Education is empowering. So this year, in 2024, I would like to encourage everyone to become more educated, to invest in their health, to ask for help. And whatever it costs, pay it. If you find someone that is reputable, that can help you solve your deeper problem, and I don't care what it is, if it's back pain, if it's nutrition, if it's whatever, ask someone for help. We are surrounded by people, and this is another one of our ventures for this year. We are surrounded by people that are really good at what they do. Our world is getting people out of pain to help them return to activities of daily interest. Getting people out of pain so that they can run again. It's not physical therapy. Physical therapy is activities of daily living. They get people out of pain so they can walk again. We get people out of pain so they can run again. We get people out of pain so they can back squat again. Physical therapy gets people out of pain so they can sit again. And there are people in this world, we know some of the best physical therapists on the planet, and they are good at their jobs. We don't step on their toes. We are the next step after. You guys have heard us talk with Dr. Land. You've heard us talk with Dr. Greg. And we have a whole lineup of people coming for this podcast for you guys to become educated from. And they are brilliant at what they do. There are people in this world that can help you on a much deeper level. So if you're walking around with an issue that you believe cannot be addressed, I'm here to tell you right now it can be addressed. The difference is going to be, you're going to have to understand that it's going to be addressed in a different timeline than what you believe it should be. Especially if you have been an athlete your whole life. Athletes are some of the most impatient people that we work with because they want to be better yesterday. I don't know why my leg hurts. My leg's been bothering me for 15 years. Can you fix it by Wednesday? Sure. Wednesday, 6 months from now. Yes. It takes that long. It's going to take some consistency, but let me tell you something. Whatever you're going to pay to have this deeper problem taken care of is a hell of a lot better than having surgery. Surgery should always be your last option for anything. Ever. unless it's an emergency surgery. But if you have the option to do other things before having surgery, do the other things first, because there's a chance that you don't need it. And if you do need it, you need to be as strong as you possibly can going into it, because then you'll recover faster. So whatever prehab you want before you go in, well worth every dollar that you would spend. If you don't know what to do, once again, ask for help. There are plenty of people around here that know how to help you. So take today, which we're now at the end of today. If you have to take tomorrow, and set realistic goals, not resolutions. You want something that's going to last, something that you can realistically do regardless of kids' schedules. It doesn't matter. You want to set yourself up to be successful at all times. Going back to speaking about humanity and being human, there could also become a time in your life where you have to help take care of somebody else. Something like I experienced this year when I had to go home for my mom's surgery and then home for Thanksgiving. And my dad's running around like a chicken with his head cut off trying to do all of the things. And mom just wanted somebody to be there. When my mom was in the hospital, we were not going to let her stay there alone. So I would stay the night. My dad and my brother would come up. I would walk back to the hotel. I would eat, take a shower, whatever I needed to do. I would walk back. We'd spend the day at the hospital. I would leave in the evening. While my dad and my brother were still there, I would go get dinner. If I didn't shower in the morning, I'd shower at night. I would come back. I would stay the night. There was no way that any of us were going to let my mom be in that hospital by herself. Not because she wasn't coherent. She was. She was in a lot of pain. However, it's scary. I mean, she just had major surgery. She just had major life-altering news. And to just leave her there by herself was not an option. Just knowing that there was somebody there in case she woke up in the middle of the night and needed something, because sometimes when you ring the bell, the people working there are busy. They have a whole floor of other patients to take care of. So there was no way I was going to leave. And I say that because I just recently listened to a podcast of someone in the fitness world who owns a gym. And somebody asked a question of, I just had to spend time with a family member in the hospital. I'm worried about losing my fitness. I'm losing everything I've worked so hard for. What can I do to stay fit while I'm taking care of my person in the hospital? And the answer back, my answer back to this person would have been, it depends. It depends on what the person's going through. It depends on how you feel about the situation. It depends. The answer that was given was, you need to be prepared for that by packing a cooler and having your food there at the hospital and taking your running shoes and bringing clothes so that you're ready to run if that person falls asleep and takes a nap. In my case, that was not an option. Not an option. I ate when I could. We were lucky to be able to stay at a hotel that had a kitchen, so I was able to have a little bit of the food, but not a lot. I mean, I had hotel breakfast. I had hospital lunch in their cafeteria. I had leftover food that I had brought up that we had in the refrigerator, and I was able to pop in the microwave for dinner. My exercise was walking to and from the hospital. But if my dad and my brother wouldn't have been there, I was not leaving. I was not leaving that woman's side. She raised me. The least I can do is be there for her. So as I'm listening to this answer, I was a little bit mad, was my initial reaction. So I know reacting is not the best. But after I took a minute to really think about it, I was like, I'm sure that there are some people that need an outlet when they're in that situation. So my answer, as opposed to being like, yeah, you should pack a cooler and make sure that you're sticking to your nutrition plan while you're at the hospital and make sure you go running. Because to me, in my mind, it's not realistic for everyone. It was not realistic for me. And the advice that fitness influencers, and this guy's not an influencer, he's a gym owner, he's a coach, he's been one for a long time, but some of the advice that's given to me puts unneeded pressure and stress on people. Oh, I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this. Listen, if you have an emergency where you need to take care of a family member, if you consistently take care of yourself, you're going to be okay to not work out for a week. You're going to be okay. You're not going to fall apart. You're not going to lose it. If that week turns into more than that, then yeah, we can find some time to fit this thing in and see what that looks like. And that's where you would talk with a coach. You would talk with a fitness professional. But to tell people you need to do this in every situation, there's enough stress in the world. Especially since 2020, there's a reason why meditation apps are a big thing now. There is a reason why speaking about trauma and healing and there's a reason why all of that is a thing now. It's because the stress of this world is getting out of control. It's getting to be ridiculous. Expecting people to answer emails and phone calls at all hours of the day and night. Social media pressure of you have to look a certain way, you have to feel a certain way, you have to act a certain way. And now being told, and there's a reason why people are intimidated to walk into gyms, because they feel like if they don't look the part, if they don't act the part, they're not welcome. And if you're not going to do this 6 to 7 days a week and give it all you got, then you shouldn't do it at all. And so people don't. They're either all in or they're all out. Whereas if people would just understand how important it is to strength train at least 3 days a week, how important it is to walk on a regular basis, you don't need to haul running shoes with you everywhere you go. You don't need to pack Tupperware into coolers everywhere you go. If you're educated on how to pick out, how to order off a menu, you'll get by. If you have to do something emergency-wise, like take care of a loved one in the hospital. And that situation of the loved one in the hospital also depends on why they're in the hospital. They're having a baby is different than being there because you're having body parts removed because you have cancer, or open heart surgery, or enter a traumatic event. Very different. So each situation requires something different. And I believe that's also the reason why people get burnt out. They get tired of feeling the pressure of having to do this type of workout routine, this type of nutrition, weighing and measuring their food. People get burnt out on it. I'm not going to lie. I got burnt out on doing bar facing burpees. It is so many of those damn things when we were competing. I was like, if I do one more bar facing burpee, I think I'm going to jump off a cliff. So burnt out. I was just done with them. And let me tell you what I haven't done in at least 3 years is a bar facing burpee. And guess what? I'm not any less healthy because I don't do them. And I'm actually quite a bit happier. Makes my life way better. So for 2024, set yourselves some realistic expectations. Follow people on social media that enhance your health and not stress you out. If you're flipping through social media and you're following people that are make you feel like you have all this extra pressure on you that, oh my gosh, well, I don't look like that. And if I do that and lift like that and work out like that, then maybe I could look like that. And this guy's telling me that, forget those people. It's not real. It's no different than the extreme nutrition people that tell you to do all meat or all vegetables or intermittent fasting and you only get to eat 3 hours a day. It's not realistic and it's not healthy. We want 2024 to be successful. We want it to be obtainable, which is why I like for everybody to take New Year's Day and have a day to chill. It's a day to get your things organized. It's a day to get ready for how you want this year to go. Today sets the pace for the rest of the year. There's no reason to rush it. There's no reason to feel like you have to beat your crap out of yourself today with a good workout, because if you don't, you're not going to start the year out right. I would much rather go into this year feeling organized with a lot of mental clarity and focus than feeling like I needed to beat the crap out of myself today. I went for a 4-mile walk today. The weather was amazing, and I took some time to enjoy how beautiful it was outside. So take a minute, organize yourself, organize your thoughts, take a deep breath, and get ready for 2024. Because this year is going to be an amazing year. Let's do this thing. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Ferrum Athletic Company podcast. If you like the show, please leave us a review, share it with your family and friends, share it on your social media platforms. Our mission is to build better humans through the education of health and movement. If this resonates with you, please shoot us an email at forged@ferrumathleticco.com. Follow us on social media, Facebook or Instagram at Ferrum Athletic Co. And we will see you all soon. Thank you for helping us to build better humans.